So depressive spirals with gender dysphoria, they really suck. And the last few days, I've had one of those where I was in a pretty deep depression for 3 days. That hasn't happened in a while. I probably went for a few weeks or more, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I would say, without experiencing that. So what happens is I can go into a depressive spell sometimes for a few hours, sometimes a day, in this case a few days. They have lasted longer than that before. But I think one reason is the gap in therapy during the holidays. That this happened last year where there was about a 5-week gap during Christmas break and going into the new year, and that happened this time at about a 5-week gap. And I can tell because I was getting to a point where I really needed to see my therapist. So I did finally get to go earlier today, and that was a good thing. That helped a lot. But therapy, the lack of therapy for that long, I usually go generally most of the time every other week. Sometimes I have went weekly, but the gap in therapy, I would say, triggered this depressive spell. And also my mind. I think our mind and our ego can try to talk us into regressing ourselves or repressing ourselves when we're trying to do something or change something in our lives, when we're trying to move forward in our lives in a certain way. And I had really taken in what my therapist said before the end of the year when I saw her in December, before that about 5-week break, where she wanted to continue on where my psychologist had left off with a year working with me. She was seeing where gender dysphoria was really distressing me and how I've really been trying to integrate it and I've tried. That's what gets me about some people on here that I know don't watch the videos, because they'll comment and say, oh, they'll act like I'm making some kind of impulse decision. And no, I've been dealing with gender dysphoria in pieces since I was around 11, but at a very heightened level in the last 4 or so years. I think I said in the last video 6 years, but really it was like since about the summer of 2021 where gender dysphoria just came on to me in a way that it stayed with me, where other times in my life it's been there in pieces and I've repressed it. This time from 2021 on, it's pretty much stayed with me. And I've tried to do anything from Christianity to occultism to New Age, spiritual practices, to try to integrate it, and I have not been successful in that. I've discussed before that I know one spiritual teacher that did it, Sarah Alcaldi, the alchemist. I'm sure other people have done it too, but I just think it depends for each one of us on if we are able to do that or not. So I've tried for a very long time. So what happened was about a week ago, before I saw Winnie, my therapist I saw today, about a week ago, I had told myself I really started setting the intention I'm going to transition, that I am going to move forward with that. And I felt good. I felt euphoric. Because I've been in my feminine now mostly for days. It's like gotten to a point where I've just consistently noticed I'm in that energy, and if I go out of it at all, I don't feel as good. But if I stay in that energy, it's really natural. It feels pretty natural to me, and I feel it in my solar plexus and my heart center, and it feels good. It feels like a really strong, energetic, high energy, high vibration frequency for me. And I've said before that where energy flows, you should go. If it's flowing in an easy direction in your life, that's probably the direction you want to go. It's like knowing intuition. It's feeling your intuition, following your intuition of everything's flowing easy. Doors are opening for me. My health feels better, because the thing is too, when I get depressed and I have anxiety, or I'm repressing the dysphoria, or I'm doing things like that, my stomach will bother me. I can get cramps in my hands, or I'll get random cramping in my neck. I'll get these different pains in me. But when I'm not repressing, when I'm not having anxiety or depression and things like that, and I'm just flowing in good energy, I don't have these pains. I don't have these issues. I sleep better. That's another issue. I don't sleep very well either if I'm having depression, anxiety, I'm repressing dysphoria, all of these things. So I started to tell myself about a week ago, okay, I really think this is a good idea. But what happened was, as our brains can do, is or our egos, you could say, can chime in there and be like, it's almost like it's a part of you talking to yourself, that old you, basically, the old you, the person that's been living in certain habits and certain ways for years and years, is chiming in, wanting you to play it safe and wanting you to stay in these old patterns and wanting you to stay in these old behaviors. And that's what started happening to me. And all of a sudden, the voice in my head is like, you don't want to do this. Hormones could hurt you. There's always a risk. Of course there's a risk, but basically the voice in my head's giving me every worst scenario about anything. What about safety? You live in a conservative state. How are people going to react to you once you eventually come out, or whatever? What if people just want to harm you, or this or that? All these different scenarios. And then the scenarios of, don't you want to be the old guy you was? Don't you want to be able to just walk around out at, I would go out to the park, for instance, at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and wander around the woods and not think much of it, because I used to be more muscular and I looked more masculine too, usually, because I usually kept short spiked haircuts and facial hair. I kept goatees and mustaches, and I felt like I was pretty much invisible for the most part, as far as anybody just wanting to possibly harm me. Not to say it couldn't have happened, but now I'm not going out made up and stuff, because I wouldn't feel comfortable with that right now. I do on here. I've been practicing it, and I like to do it on here as it helps me learn it. And I feel pretty, and I like doing it. But out in public, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing this. But anyway, the voice in my head is saying to me, if you're a trans woman and you're not going to be able to go out and do that kind of stuff, you're not going to be able to go out. I mean, I could. I mean, nothing's stopping me. I remember my psychologist one time told me, well, you probably don't want to do that unless you carry a gun or pepper spray. It would be dangerous. You don't know who's lurking around. And if I was a trans woman and, I obviously had been taking hormones and looked feminine, yeah, of course there's a danger if I'm out around some woods at night or wandering around in places at night that normally, as a more masculine male, I didn't seem to bother me. But what's interesting is I told my therapist today, Winnie, I was like, it's weird, because even though I'm not wearing makeup out and things like that, I've been feeling feminine so often now, more regularly, on a regular basis, that when I go out, I know I carry myself a little different, and I act different in ways than I used to. I feel like in a more, not ultra feminine, but a more feminine fashion. It's interesting because if I go to the park at night now, I'll stay up on the main track just to run where the lights are at and stuff. I won't even think about really wandering off down in the woods or anything. It's like my mind's already kind of geared toward my safety, and I haven't transitioned, but I have this mindset already kind of developed, or has been developing. I feel like that I've been thinking so much in that mind frame lately from to be a trans woman from that perspective. I've been thinking, because I've been leaning into it a lot more, that it just seems now coming natural to me. I'm thinking I'm more hyper vigilant about my surroundings, even without starting hormones or anything. So, but that voice in my head will tell me all these negative scenarios. Wouldn't you rather be the guy who could just go wander off and do this and do that? And yeah, there's parts of me that's like, there's some convenience and things like that. But at the same time, there's so many other things at play in my mind and body with the gender dysphoria, not feeling congruent with myself, looking in the mirror, not recognizing myself. And realizing when I don't fully embody what I feel in a feminine nature, that I regress and I get depressed, or I don't have that high vibrational feeling and things like that. And then I feel stagnant. My energy gets stagnant. So these voices were going on, and I sunk into a depression. I wasn't able to battle it off. And this can happen. I think this can happen anytime we try to make a major life change. You don't have to be transitioning. You could be making a major life change in anything in your life. I mean, you could have a relationship end, or you could end a relationship, or you could have someone could pass away in your family. You could have a major job change after years or something. And you could decide to make some kind of conscious decision that you know is best for you, but everybody else is telling you it's wrong. And then the voice in your head will tell you it's wrong. The voice in your head will tell you to play it safe, stay where you're at. Or if you're trying to quit a bad habit or something, maybe you're trying to get off drugs, or maybe you're trying to get away from a lust addiction or something, or whatever other addictions there are, eating addictions, whatever you could be trying to do. Your mind might tell you that you should play it safe. Let me turn that heat off. I don't want that noise to keep going on. But yeah, get some coffee. But anyway, your mind will come in then too, because, well, in the case of an addiction, it's going to tell you, you feel better when you do this. You get that dopamine spike, you get that dopamine hit off of what you're doing. You want that, that feels better. So yeah, you always have the voice of the old self or the old habit or behavior or whatever wanting to come in and take you back. And I think what often happens is one step forward, a step back, or 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And my therapist said that today too. She agreed that you're trying to move forward, but sometimes there's going to be the steps back. And I had regressed myself for a while too after my psychologist left. So, because I was trying to integrate it, and I'd still like to integrate it, but I don't think I can. I've tried it so much. But anyway, these last 3 days, yeah, it was bad, because the feeling I got was I started to give in to the voices. But when I did that, I had no feelings. Any feelings I was having, which were good feelings and euphoric feelings, and I was feeling life, I was feeling pretty good in general. When I let those voices take over, dead feelings. And I've had that before, and it sucks it's like I suddenly couldn't feel anything. I went back into this regressed, stagnant energy. I was like, well, I guess maybe it's better to be that guy. and or be a version of a guy, and you could still have your long hair and maybe grow facial hair. This is how I was talking to myself. So I guess you could do that. Maybe you should just do that, and then you don't have to worry about it. And but what happened is, I guess, really, when I look back at this, I was sad. I just lay there on the couch, and then I wanted to dissociate. So nothing bad, but watching. Mostly of all things, Beavis and Butthead. I was watching some of the new episodes because they were just making me laugh. I love that show. It's a show I watched in the '90s, but I like a lot of their newer stuff too. And I guess I needed something to laugh, but it was also just associating me to not feel the regression. But I had dead feelings as far as mostly with happiness or anything like that. And what happens when I get like that is I start ruminating on taking myself out and wanting to exit the world. And I start thinking about I've mentioned this in videos before. I talk about the tree in the park, and I've often said you can put two and two together there. I have a favorite tree in the park. And when I tell Winnie this, of course, she always asks, well, you're not really making a plan with that, are you? I said, no, it's just a thought goes through my head. And I said, it'll comfort me at the time, because I can tell myself, well, nobody can make you be here if you don't want to be here, to put up with this crap. And that's not just gender dysphoria, it's just society and things that are going on in this world in general, really. But the gender dysphoria is my biggest thing I deal with personally. But I told her, I said, it was just comforting me. And I said, I realized, though, before I came in and saw you today, that I'm repressing and I'm pushing back in fear and letting the voice in my head put me in fear. But I know that when I regress and I don't do anything about this, or I go back in a hole with it, meaning the gender dysphoria, my energy becomes stagnant. And I go into depression, and I go into dissociative behaviors and things like that. It'll lead to me drinking again. And not to say having a drink's bad or anything like that, but I would tend to probably start drinking more than I probably would want to. I might go back into a lust addiction, things like that. I've had that happen before. And right now, what's interesting with gender dysphoria, of all things, I am on 119 days of semen retention. And I've said before on this channel, I've never, there's probably some other gender dysphoric person or that has done this. I just never heard anyone talk about it, have gender dysphoria and practice semen retention. But yeah, I've been doing that 119 days. So tomorrow will be 4 months. No physical edging. Have I looked at models here and there on social media? Yeah, because I'm not perfect. But I haven't physically edged or anything like that. And I gain a lot from that. That was another tool that I was using, thinking it would help integrate gender dysphoria, because the idea with semen retention is a lot of times it can amp your masculinity. It can boost testosterone. Now you would ask yourself, why would I want that? But it also helps with things like being in this male body, being that I'm not on hormones right now. I try to utilize whatever tool I guess I can to help me. And this helps me connect to source energy. My meditations are on a psychic level, very strong, where I can meditate easily and go into high level frequency meditations. And I know much of that's coming from withholding my seed. And I know this from experience of doing this practice off and on since the end of 2020. I've done this practice off and on. And it's also helped me battle lust addiction and get away from where I would say I felt like I had an addiction to adult content for a long time. I'd say about 6 years ago, it was pretty bad. And I'd be losing my seat all of the time. And this happens to lots of men, and it causes them issues, causes them ED, and it'll cause them, I think it causes a lot of things, actually. I think it lowers your vibration even more. From my own experiences, this is what I've learned, that it'll cause you to fall in depressions more often. It'll cause you to have chaotic thinking more often. It'll cause you, if you're watching adult content a lot, it can distort your thinking toward attraction with people. You can have a hard time interacting with people in real life that you're wanting to have a relationship with because you're watching so much digital content. There's a lot of things that can happen with it. And I'm not totally condemning. I mean, you could probably watch in moderation, maybe. But the thing is, I also think you exchange energy with things. And we only have so much energy to put out there. So semen retention has helped me get past the lust thing largely. And it's helped me with meditations. And with this depression spiral I just had, I really feel like it would be worse. It'd be much worse if I was dissociating with edging and things like that. So not to say I don't have feelings like that. Yes, I do. I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have attraction to people. I certainly do. But it's just other things I want to do and put my energy towards. So I guess I try to work on that, and that's why I've been practicing it. But the point is, semen retention has not made the dysphoria go away. So that's something else too. My brain will tell me, well, if you take hormones and you're going to destroy your seed, and you're going to not have that power that you have with meditation and have that higher frequency. But it would just be different. I would have, I could cultivate the frequency that I have now through a female lens. It would just be a different, it would just be from a different perspective. I wouldn't have semen retention because I would take a T blocker and I would take the hormones to make me appear more female, and the estrogen would, all of that would kill off semen. So I wouldn't have semen retention to rely on in that sense, but I could still cultivate energy. Females cultivate energy. So, they just don't do it the same way males do, but I could still meditate. I could still stay away. If I stayed away from all the lustful energy, like adult content, things like that, I would still cultivate energy, just not in the same way. But I could still cultivate high frequency. There's a term for this energy called ojas. It's a spiritual term. And women and men can cultivate ojas, but they cultivate it in different ways. So as a trans woman, I would just cultivate it by still cultivating my energy in a positive direction. So I've had to tell myself that, but that voice in my head, that's something else will be used against me. Well, look what semen retention does with your meditations and energy levels. It heightens my energy levels. I think it helps with our hair for men. I think it helps with aging in general. I think it helps with all of that with the male body. So for now, that's what I've been doing. Of course, if I take hormones, I take a different approach, like I say. So I was just glad today that I got to go see Winnie, because I was right on the edge with the time gap of about 5 weeks or so, and being able to, it made me feel better, made me feel a little more grounded. And I came out of there feeling a little bit more lifted. And then today, here I am, or tonight, I'm on here recording a video, and I put on makeup, and I didn't feel like doing that last couple of days because I was in that stagnant energy. And I could have just got on here with no makeup. I've done it before, but I just didn't even feel like getting on here because of the energy. But today, after talking to her and stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah. I got more back in my feminine, and decided to do this. I guess another subject I'll talk about, there's been a few people on here. I want to say overall, I've had a lot of support on here, and a lot of you all have been, most all of you have been very kind, and I'm very appreciative, and I'm happy you're here. There's been a lot of people recently subscribe, and I'm happy you're here. There are a few trolls, and I know everybody deals with them, but I'm going to call it out because, some of this stuff is ridiculous. Now, I'll be honest with you. I have only maybe reported. I've blocked a lot of people. I've hidden a lot of people that say stuff, and that is of a real negative polarity. People that have said things that are of a real negative polarity, like coming down on me for God, religion, the hell, all of that stuff. I've explained myself to a point to some people when this was first going on, but it's gotten to where now if I see these comments, and most of the time I can tell these people aren't even really watching what I'm talking about or the videos. They just hear trans, they just hear gender, and they make their own assumptions, and then they just decide they believe what they want to believe. And that's the case with hateful comments or negative comments in general. People just want to believe what they want to believe. So usually with that sort of stuff, I'm just deleting the comment, hiding the users, basically blocking them. There are a couple of ones that I reported, but it has to be just ugly. And these are coming from what I would say are incels. And I would say that's the type of guy, that is just angry. They're angry at everything. They're angry at the world. They're angry at their life. They're angry at women. They're angry at people like me who might decide to be a trans woman. They're angry at trans women. They're angry at a lot of other men. They're angry at everything. And that comes from insecurity. These are the same guys, a lot of them on here that you'll see trying to also give advice on going out and picking up women, and they're rude. Some of them get banned for their rudeness, their obnoxiousness, threatening women's safety. Some of these guys are these type of guys too. This was the type of guy, actually, was why I left the adult store. I left back in November. That's why I left my job, because my manager, who happened to be a gay man and who happened to be very friendly when I got hired, was very supportive. He just, over time, he just lost it. I've went over some of this before, what happened there in other videos, but he hired this, what I would say, looking back on it, was an incel, young guy who, I'm not going to say he was bad looking, he's a good looking guy, but he's extremely fake, extremely angry, extremely arrogant. But he would be one way to my manager. My manager, I really think, was attracted to him, and that's why he wouldn't do anything. But when he worked with me and the two girls that worked there, he acted different ways. And he could be vile, mean. I saw him as possibly violent. I started to fear for my safety there. So, I've dealt with one in person recently. And then on here, they'll say things like, want me to get off the internet and telling me they know better, that they just got over it. And this is the same stuff I've heard from a lot of people. Just turn off depression. You just turn off gender dysphoria. So with people like this, though, and sometimes they say worse things than what I'm telling you. I think some of these comments don't even make it to me. If they're really vile, YouTube probably catches them. But the ones that do make it to me, I just report them. You get reported. So I'm telling you, if that's something you plan on doing, you get reported. Maybe you don't care, but that's what happens: harassment and bullying. And I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, or stop living my life, or not talk about this on my own channel because people like that. They're insecure. They have their own trauma they're not dealing with. And that's the point I guess I'm making here. I have empathy for it, but you shouldn't take it out on everybody else. Take your trauma out. Tell people you can cut off depression and all these feelings, but then you're going out being nasty, ugly, and demeaning to other people, which means you have all this trauma that obviously you could not shut off. So there's that. I had a woman recently say that I'm just an autogynephile and that all trans are just perverted. And I had this lady say this to me, which is disgusting, because I've talked about on this channel before that no, we're not all autogynephiles. There's a difference between autogynephilia and gender dysphoria. And you can look it up. You can look up autogynephilia. There's men that just like to cross-dress, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's men that it's a fetish for them. Some of these men are very manly. They like being men, but they enjoy doing that in private, some of them. You have that sort of thing. But gender dysphoria, and I'm just giving quick synopsis on this stuff here now, but I've talked about it before, but gender dysphoria is you're wanting to live your life as the other gender. That doesn't mean from a fetish standpoint or from a lustful standpoint. Of course, that's part of your life, but it's from an everyday living standpoint of you living your everyday life, interacting with people, going to the store, driving, everything, working, whatever you're doing, you're living as a man or a woman. I mean, you can live as non-binary or androgynous too, but I'm saying you're living as that. That's that. With gender dysphoria, you're wanting to be the other gender. Generally, that's you're wanting to live out every day. That's what you're wanting to do. So people will say stuff to me like that, which is just pure ignorance. I mean, it's just not doing your research, trying to put everybody into a certain pile, and that's also very demeaning. And yeah, something like that I'll report too, because that's just throwing baseless claims out there at somebody you don't know at all. So anyway, what I would say is I feel like it's probably about a 90-10 ratio though on here, and most people are fantastic, and I enjoy commenting and talking with you all. And anyway, as far as my depression, it's better right now. I'm hoping that continues to get better. My therapist did find me a couple of groups, believe it or not, in Tennessee, and she says she had a hard time because conservative states right now, I just think it's generally hard with the state of things. But she found, I think it was, I've glanced at it, and I think it's like 2 online groups could be a part of that happen once or twice a month. And there's a couple of in-person groups that happen. I think one happens twice a month, one may happen once a month. So that's something else that I can look at, because I really think too that if I have other people I can interact with, that can help me. I think I would feel better if I met other trans people in person. are gender dysphoric people in person, because then I might make a friend or two, and that might be a good thing for me. But right now, Winnie said I just need to take it a day at a time, and she's right. She said, you'll probably take a step forward, step back. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do that, but and see if I can get past these mind blocks, because I'm still thinking that transition's probably the right thing for me to do. But I guess we'll see. But anyway, guys, I guess that's all I got for now, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.